Well, today on Signature Style Saturday, we're going to make a departure kind of from what we traditionally do on Saturdays. I like to think that one of the signature things about me is I'm typically pretty upbeat and smiling and encouraging, or at least I try to be. But I have my bad days too, and today is one of them. Actually, it's been kind of a difficult week, and I'm not going to go into all of the details. Some of them are just kind of practical things that are a real headache. Let's just say they involve the words earthquake and piers. And then there's some other things that just really kind of have me down in the dumps related to some family members. And just the world in general feels kind of shaky, not the terra firma that I typically really I think we all take for granted. So because of that, I've been in kind of a blue funk this week. And today it kind of reached an apex. And I thought, Linda, okay, in the scope of things, you've got it really good. Pull your head out of your you-know-what. Look on the bright side. And while I can't say that today is going to be a happy one, I will say that I can find moments of joy. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Little sparks of joy that anyone, or typically anyone, can achieve throughout the course of sometimes a very, very long day. I've been kind of obsessed lately with the details being in the small things, that the quality of life is often not the big overarching themes, but it's the details of our day to day, and to the extent we can affect our quality of life by affecting those details. In fact, despite it being kind of a hard week, nevertheless, I have a book that is now on pre-order. It's going to be coming out in October. It's garden-inspired living season to season. And the thrust of it is just that, small things that can enhance our quality of life. You guys can pre-order it now. This is my big ask because pre-orders really do help in the initial exposure of the book. And let's just say it's a lot of things that you get from me here, but kind of on a day-by-day, easily digestible little nuggets of things that I think you'll enjoy. So what do you say, Stuart? Let's get started by sharing some sparks of joy to maybe help you get through a difficult day. Well, my first spark of joy is really, I guess, results from someone's generosity. So while we were in New Orleans, I don't know who it was, and if it's one of you out there, please let me know. They left a big bouquet of Harry Lauder's walking stick on my bench. And I used to have one of these shrubs at my older home. Stuart, right here, if we can, let's put up a little bit about the plant itself. But it makes these wonderful contorted branches when it's in its leafless state, i.e. right now. So somebody brought me a bouquet of these beautiful, beautiful twigs. Thank you. Please let me know who did it. They really gave me a little jolt of joy when I discovered them outside. They were left on my front porch wooden bench, and I think they just look wonderful.
That's so cool.
Yeah, and something else that gives me great joy, and that is a wonderful thrift store find. So I don't know that I showed you this, but I got this at the Denver thrift store last time I went on that thrifting adventure with my darling Taylor, my daughter-in-law. So that's really fun. Two very inexpensive jolts of joy. And you too, if someone didn't leave you a bouquet of contorted sticks and twigs on your bench, then just go outside. There are so many beautiful branches right now. It's a very magazine catalog thing to do, to just display really beautifully colored branches and twigs. You might have some forsythia you could force, but it makes a really dramatic, I think, centerpiece for either a side table or your dining table like mine. Well, here are a couple of words that always spark joy, in my book anyway, and that is a root beer float. So all too often, I think when we get down in the dumps, we're prone to overeating or eating poorly or drinking or imbibing in some way of something that's not very, very healthy. But this, while it may not be healthy, is definitely a good alternative. And this is compliments of my sister Meg, who told me about this. And that is to make a root beer float out of a couple of things. One, a zero sugar A&W root beer, which, yeah, it tastes, of course, you can tell I haven't had one in a while. I can barely open the can. And it makes it even more fun, I think, when you use some really fun glassware. And in fact, I had Stuart help me.
They were a little high up.
Yeah, help me get these out of the cabinet because they were a little too high for me to reach. And Stuart says, oh, these, I don't know what you're going to do with these, but they really look like a milkshake or something should go in there. So if not a milkshake, then we're going to make a root beer float. And we're not only going to use low calorie, or I should say 0 calorie A&W root beer, but we are going to use, this is the secret ingredient, and this is what my sister told me about. It seems like all of a sudden this stuff is everywhere. So many of us are trying to increase our protein intake, and this one let me see here, one serving size is 1 bottle, and it packs 42 grams of protein. I mean, that's pretty incredible. And 230 calories. Now, and it's got 8 grams of carbohydrates. Now, truth be told, I have never had one of these in one sitting. It's pretty heavy. It will really fill you up, but it's called a Core Power High Protein Milkshake. And this is what you are going to use to make your root beer float. My sister says you just pour some of this into that root beer. Stuart, you're going to be the taste tester.
I'm ready and willing.
Ready and willing to see if this indeed is true. And by the way, you can just take a swig of this, and it does taste like a milkshake. So number one, if you need a jolt of joy, then you might think about a semi-healthy root beer float. But also, if you're monitoring your calories, and more importantly, like I am, your protein intake, then look no further than Core Power Fit Life. This is not a sponsored post. And also A&W root beer. So I say here, Stuart, I'll do it for us. Cheers. Well, you guys know that I am a huge fan of my local library and my Libby app. I've been using it to listen to audiobooks while I'm on the treadmill, and most recently I've been using it to look at magazines, something heretofore I have not done. And what I like about it, you can just go to the magazine rack right there and just click on it, and it brings you all sorts of magazines. And what I love about it, it says here, they're always available with no wait list, nice. No loan limit, and no due dates.
True digital.
Yeah, truly digital. So you just can go and select on your newsstand what it is you are interested in. And let's say I'm interested in home and gardening. And sure enough, I get all sorts of options. And recently, this morning, when I was just sitting here by the fire, I looked at the House and Garden magazine, and it's just really, it's just so fun.
Oh, wow,
it's just, yeah, it's just so easy.
And it's cooler than I expected.
It's very, it's very cool. And what I like about it is I can immediately, if I see an idea in here that I want to emulate or I want to copy, I can just take a screenshot and I've got it in my photos, and then I can move on to the next thing. So these, I guess, are digital tear sheets, and I'm really anxious to explore all of the different magazines that are available. That way I don't have to make the commitment to a subscription that I may or may not enjoy. And I always have it right here at hand. I can even search for specific issues. So that would be a little jolt of joy, and that is going to your Libby app and looking at the magazine rack right there to partake of at any time. No waiting list. Well, I said earlier that most of these, if not all of these sparks of joy, are accessible to all of us. Now, this one is predicated on the fact that it is sunny outside, because right now it is still very, very cold, very, very dreary, and there's not a speck of sunshine coming through these windows. Yesterday, however, there was. And Hubs, after he got up and had his cup of coffee and everything, he came back to bed. There was great eastern sun coming in the window, and he said it just really gave him a spark of joy to be sleeping in a sunbeam. And I thought, oh, I just love the romantic expression of that, whether you are reading in a sunbeam or napping in a sunbeam or watching your cat purr in a sunbeam. It nevertheless can really lower your blood pressure. It's there for the taking, assuming that there's a sunny day. And it's just one of those things that you don't want to take for granted. So it gives you a little, if not a spark of joy, a little spark of at least coziness if you have the luxury of being able to take an extra nap in the morning or in the afternoon. Well, here's my question of the day. Do you have a relationship with something that's a little bit abstract? And let me give you a couple of examples. So my friend Deborah, she has what she calls a relationship with math. She loves math. She can calculate anything in her head, and she finds it elegant and comforting, and not something I would normally ascribe to the discipline of mathematics. But when I started thinking about it, I thought, well, I kind of have a relationship with words. I love different kinds of words. I love to use them. I love how they can just be so very, very on target. I love the sound of some words. I love reading words. And so I consider myself to be a person that has a relationship with words. Some of you have called that out. It's not affectation. I just like words, and I always have. So here's my question of the day. Do you have a relationship with something kind of abstract like that? Or it could also be with something that's kind of concrete. And a friend of mine, for example, said that she has a relationship with boxes. She just likes boxes, which is, I guess, a very good thing in this day and age of online shopping and Amazon deliveries. And she finds great pleasure in using them in different ways and using them to organize her home or whatever. So that's my question of the day. Do you have a relationship with something kind of different? And if so, please make sure to put it in the comments below. I think it might give you a jolt of joy just to think about it. Okay, well, speaking of words, I was reading something the other day and I came across the word nestle. Now, most of us know what that means, but have we ever really thought about it? And I started thinking about it in depth, how much I like the word, I like the sound of it, I like the way it makes me feel. It makes me feel secure. It makes me feel cozy. It makes me feel as if all is right with the world. And then I started thinking about it in practice. And I realized that one thing I'm very attracted to is one thing that nestles within another thing. And let me give you a couple of examples. So this is one that I have showed you before, how much I love this rattan basket. I've showed you this before, Stuart. This is probably very familiar to you. It's a stand and a basket. And then when I realized that this thrift store find nestled perfectly inside of it, I loved it even more. For some reason, it really seems to kind of, okay, look at this here. and then look at it nestled inside this rattan basket. And it just makes it seem more prominent. It elevates it, and it just seems complete to me. The other reason I like it is because I have nestled it in here. So then I don't have a hard surface on a hard surface. I have a soft surface on a hard surface. So this is probably the example you guys are most familiar with. I love it. So then I thought, okay, I've got these round rattan baskets. I love this weave. I have a lot of it. I don't collect a lot of things, but I would say that I do collect a good bit of this. It reminds me of Singapore, and it reminds me of just some vacations we've taken where I have purchased some. So I thought if I can nestle something square into a square basket, then I can definitely nestle something round in a round basket, especially when I have a set of bowls that nestle one in another, which I just also love. And it just, I don't know, it just makes me feel good that then I can take these nestled bowls, which then all coordinate with one another, kind of like my garden design thing of Papa Bear, Mama Bear, and Baby Bear. And they relate to one another on a buffet. They would look great with different things in different bowls, but they would all harmonize with one another, especially if maybe I had this as a centerpiece over here. So obviously, next time I look for these baskets, and I should point out, there's a third one of these baskets, because not only do the bowls nestle, Stuart, but the baskets nestle as well. There are 3 of them, and if you want to just rotate the camera over there, you can see that I have a fern nestled into the largest one. So obviously, I think what I need now is a small version for the Baby Bear white bowl to nestle within. And when we come back, I'm going to show you a couple more examples. Speaking of nestling, one of my favorite gifts to give for a bridal shower or a housewarming gift are these glass bowls that nestle within one another. It just makes me happy to see them all here. It's kind of like a happy family that they're all nestled in here together. And I don't know, it's just a jolt of joy when I open the drawer and I am attentive to the fact that this is an example of nestling. Now let's come back over here.
That was one tiny bowl before that.
But here, let me get a jolt of root beer float and show some other examples. And one of the reasons that I enjoy this so much is because it inspires me when I go thrifting. So I think, okay, I've got this holder, and maybe when I go thrifting, I want to find a glass container that sits in there exactly. Likewise, what I am now on the hunt for are glass containers that will fit in here, maybe a little bit more appropriately than this one fits inside this small basket, but a glass container that will fit in here, a glass vase or something, if you will, that I could use for a lot of different purposes. Now, speaking of nestling for practical purposes, I like baskets of all kinds. You guys might be basket hoarders as well. They're a relatively inexpensive thing for one to hoard or collect. I really like these kind of African-inspired baskets. I've got a number of them. This one in particular I love because it belonged to my brother-in-law who's now deceased, and he did get it indeed in Africa. Now you can find these a lot of different places. And when I first got it, it was very, it was kind of squished and rather deformed. But I discovered that if I took one of these pillar candle stands that I got at the dollar store and I nestled it down into the bottom of the basket, over time, it has helped it restore its shape.
Definitely.
So that then when I put like a 6-inch pot in it or something, that pot will fit into it and nestle very comfortably into the basket, which is now straight from the nestled saucer that I've got inside. If you think it's trendy, well, yes, it is, and I'll tell you why when we come back. Well, this form of nestling is very, very au courant. It's very on trend, especially in magazines like Serena and Lily, anything that's coastally related, any kind of coastal decor, and that's any kind of wicker or rattan or some kind of basket weave, and inside is nestled some kind of vessel. I got these years ago from Terrain when they were on sale, and I love the looks of them. Hubs especially likes using them, and one of the reasons is because they've got good grip. So you can find all sorts of things now, pictures, glasses, different types of entertaining items that nestle inside of rattan covers like this. Now you can buy them, and sometimes they're at a reasonable price point and sometimes they're not. But to the extent that you like that look, you can replicate it yourself. So I was so happy when I went to the thrift store and I was able to put this composition together. So this was one piece at the thrift store, and then I found this bottle, and this bottle just nestled in here ever so appropriately. And sometimes I like to put this on my bedside table with just one scented bloom in it. But I love the way it looks. I could also gift it. I could put a cork in here, and I could put some kind of homemade vinegar or something. I just really love the way it looks. I love the way it nestles inside its kind of metal basket. And taking it one step further, I especially love it when I can nestle something green into a basket. So this is one of my favorite looks, where I can take something that really is sparking joy, like these blooming muscari, and I can nestle them into baskets, which again then puts a soft, cushiony material on top of a hard one, and I just love the way it looks. And then of course I could put or nestle a saucer in there, and it would protect the basket. So that's another example. These are simple things, you guys, but sometimes when you're having a bad day, these little epiphanies, these little domestic epiphanies just give me just a moment of happiness that I think is important for all of us. Next up for me is when I go to the thrift store, I'm going to take this thrift store basket with me and see what I might find that would nestle beautifully within the confines of its rim. Okay, this has been giving me a jolt of joy every morning and sometimes in the afternoon. I've become a little bit obsessed with it. And this is a very, very healthy snack that you too can enjoy. Hubs just loves it. And that is taking Ezekiel bread, which by the way has no flour in it. It's all sprouted nuts and grains and things of that nature. And you toast the bread, which I have been doing, and then you use some kind of really healthy nut butter. I've been using almond butter, but I've also used some no added sugar peanut butter, whatever you've got. You could even just use regular butter if you so chose. And then a big dollop of Manacora honey on top of it. And there ain't nothing wrong with Manacora honey. On anything you eat it on. You guys already know, and this isn't even an ad today, but prebiotics. It's just what we do because we are obsessed with it, because we absolutely love it.
I have one of these a day at least.
Yeah. So this will spark some joy and contentment. I wouldn't recommend eating this snack or this breakfast with a root beer float. That kind of doesn't match. But with a really good cup of hot tea in the afternoon or a really strong cup of coffee in the morning, that would be delish. Okay, another thing that I really like because it nestles, I've got a crock pot. And I just bought a tiny crock pot because I discovered my big one. I seldom ever used it because it was just too big for Hubs and myself. So I bought one of these 2-quart ones. Yeah, it is. And I think, and I'm more likely to use it, and we're more likely not to overeat. You can see in here, I've got some lentil soup. This is a detox lentil soup. If I can remember, I'll try to put the recipe up in the newsletter or whatever. But it's got just lots of really good stuff. Lentils, potatoes, carrots, onions, herb de Provence, garlic, all of that yumminess. So that's another cute example of something that nestles one inside another. Okay, let's make some toast. Well, this might seem like an odd thing to do to spark some joy or give you a little glimmer of happiness, but it's something that I find that I am drawn to when I'm a little bit down in the dumps, not so much when life is going pretty well, and that is reading poetry. Now, if that sounds kind of odd to you, well, I encourage you to give it a try, because you'll never know what little jewels are hidden inside a book of poetry. Now, happily, when we were in New Orleans, I found a book of selected poems by John Updike, a writer that I'm very fond of, and I'm going to share one of these poems with you. And this is just a random one. I just opened this, so I am reading it just right after I first discovered it. But these are the kinds of things that just make me, I don't know, a little bit more content. All shall be well, and all manner of things shall be well. That's kind of what poetry does for me. So this one that I just opened to is on, very garden appropriate, is on hoeing. I sometimes fear the younger generation will be deprived of the pleasures of hoeing. There is no knowing how many souls have been formed by this simple exercise. The dry earth like a great scab breaks, revealing moist, dark loam. The pea root's home, a fertile wound, perpetually healing. How neatly the green weeds go under. The blade chops the earth anew. Ignorant the wise boy who has never rendered thus the world fecundar. So I just opened that, had no idea what it was going to be about. Stuart, you are here as a testament that I just opened to this page.
Yeah, you did.
And just reading that gave me a little spark of joy, because it makes me think about hoeing when I can't be out there doing it, because it is still bitter, bitter cold. Winter is not wanting to give up its grip easily this year. So I hope you have enjoyed these little sparks of joy tips. I've also been putting on my Instagram little fitness snacks, because I think truly sometimes happiness comes in small packages. So I hope you enjoyed these. You guys take care, and we'll see you tomorrow.